To what extent did Sissy Spacek adhere to her character? Like Carrie, she shunned the entire cast because she felt alone. She crammed biblical illustrations and religious iconography into her trailer. In the graveyard sequence, she refused to use stunt doubles and buried herself for hours. The psychological toll was enormous. The fire injured actresses, and the blood harmed her skin. She never acted out of character, though. At 75, she now acknowledges how far she's gone to become. Sissy Spacek was born in Quitman, Texas, on Christmas Day, 1949, 3 minutes after midnight. It felt like a storybook moment as she entered the world. Edwin, her father, was a county agent for Texas A&M for almost 30 years. Virginia, her mother, had Irish and English ancestry. Her father's family had Sudeten German and Moravian Czech background. Spacek, which means star in Czech, is whence the term Spacek originated. Or, slang-wise, cigarette. The well-known actor Rip Torn was her first cousin, and her grandpa had previously served as mayor of a small Texas town. Her name wasn't Sissy all the time. She was Mary Elizabeth Spacek in full, but she was given the nickname Sissy by her two older brothers, and it remained with her forever. Love gave rise to the nickname. It accompanied her to Hollywood from their comfortable Texas home. It became who she was there. She tried her hand at singing when she went to New York at the age of 17. The song she posted, which she called Rainbow, was a critique of John Lennon's Naked album cover. It was unsuccessful. However, things started to change when she stopped using the stage name and adopted the Sissy moniker. Sissy had a passion for performing from a young age. When she performed in her first talent show, she was just 6 years old. Her early years in East Texas seemed enchanted. She went horseback riding, swimming in local creeks, and climbing trees. She recalled giving thanks to God for her village and family when she was in bed. Though she didn't want to be somewhere else, she was starting to dream. She fell in love with performance thanks to a local cheer squad. Mineola's Cinema Theater started the fire. When she saw Come Blow Your Horn, she pictured herself jumping right into the movie. During his visit, her relative Rip Torn further stoked that enthusiasm. Her questions would cover every aspect of acting. She was the embodiment of popularity in high school, serving as a majorette, cheerleader, and homecoming queen. No one could have predicted that this intelligent Texas girl would one day frighten everyone on film, yet that is exactly what occurred. She appeared in the 1976 horror movie Carrie as Carrie White at the age of 26. A telekinetic nightmare was created out of the naive prom queen. The change was terrifying. The idea of someone so sweet being so strong on TV astounded critics. It came from a deeper place than acting, and it was her first Oscar nomination. Sissy's brother Robbie passed away from leukemia at the age of 17. He was a performance and track star at the age of 18. She referred to it as her life's pivotal moment. Her parents sent her to live with Rip Torn and his wife in New York while he was ill. She came back to the city feeling empty after Robbie's death, but something changed. Her fearlessness came from that sadness. Later, she said, once you've had that experience, nothing else scares you. She may still feel his presence decades later. My heart feels incredibly alive for him. She was instructed by her mother to grieve him completely before rising stronger. And she took that action. Her fuel was that pain. She still wanted to be a musician when she returned to New York. You Went Too Far This Time, John, was released by her when she was 19. The lyrics were sharp but beautiful. The naked picture of Lennon with Yoko Ono angered her. Not a single record charted. Despite the fact that Roulette Records dropped her, she persisted. At the Lee Strasberg Institute, she pursued her acting studies. She discovered a way to extract emotion from genuine suffering. Despite passing an audition, she was turned down by Decca Records. Her voice was too similar to Loretta Lynn's, they said. Years would pass before she realized the irony. Her first significant film role was in 1972. Her role in Prime Cut was that of a young girl who was sold into sexual slavery. That was startling. The scenes were quite explicit. Viewers were unsure of what to believe. Sissy didn't back down, though. She desired meaningful roles. She was also involved in the art scene in New York during this period. Andy Warhol's Factory, experimental cinema, and locations that push boundaries. TV series came slowly after. The Waltons, American Style, and Love all included guest appearances. Though they were only baby steps, she was making progress. Then Badlands appeared. Everything was altered. She portrayed Martin Sheen's character, Holly Sargass, a 15-year-old who flees with a murderer. A genuine murder spree in 1958 served as the loose basis for the film. At the age of 23, Spacek produced a voiceover that was both poetic and unsettling. Her performance had depth yet was calm, aloof, and almost dreamy. She was nominated by BAFTA for it. Critics were taken aback. The top film festival in Spain awarded Martin Sheen Best Actor. The National Film Registry of the United States would eventually house the Badlands. She was totally trusted by Terrence Malick, the filmmaker. A large portion of the film's emotional weight rested on her, and she handled it with a composure derived from life experience, a sense of innocence tinged with grief. She had no intention of becoming famous. She was being truthful. Her career would be characterized by that candor. Neither a big audition nor a fortunate break marked the beginning of Sissy Spacek's quest to become Carrie White. Behind-the-scenes work was the first step. Phantom of the Paradise, a low-budget Brian De Palma picture, featured her husband, Jack Fisk, as art director in 1974. To aid in the decor of the set, Fisk brought space echelon. It wasn't her forte. De Palma made a joke about how terrible she was at decorating sets, but that visit made all the difference. Silently, it immersed her in De Palma's world. Early in 1976, De Palma was trying to find actors for the Stephen King novel-based movie Carrie. Initially, he gave Spacek no thought, but Fisk persisted in pushing. He informed De Palma that his wife was worthy of a shot. Unwillingly, De Palma conceded. He instructed Spacek to get the book and get ready. Her life altered because of that one call. The audition was taken quite seriously by Spacek. Not only did she appear, she changed. She read the book repeatedly, recording all of Carrie's emotions and suffering in memory. To be available, she then ruined a commercial job. She made a daring choice that evening before the audition. Her face was not cleansed. Her teeth weren't brushed. She put Vaseline on her hair to make it appear oily and uncared for. She wore an old sailor dress that had been fashioned by her mother when she was in 7th grade. In order to make it hang unevenly, she even ripped out the hem. She desired to appear to be someone that no one wished to be around. She wished to have Carrie's feelings. A lovely but impoverished girl from her school who wore tattered clothes and was teased came to mind. It was that memory that pushed her forward. It was ideal when she subsequently confessed, "I was feeling very sorry for myself." In the meantime, De Palma was examining numerous other actresses. More than 100 girls were seen by him. Betsy Slade, who was renowned for her subdued performance in Our Era, was his first choice. He really informed her she probably wouldn't get the part when he called Spacek. He advised her not to miss her commercial shot. Spacek almost didn't make it. Meanwhile, there was an odd development in Hollywood. George Lucas and De Palma were simultaneously casting Star Wars and Carrie. For both films, the same young ladies were trying out. Carrie White almost became Carrie Fisher. Amy Irving, who went on to play Sue Snell in Carrie, came very close to being Princess Leia. Melanie Griffith also made an attempt. However, nobody had what Spacek possessed. She didn't treat Carrie badly. The audience loved her because of her, while they were afraid of her. The other top contender played Carrie like someone you'd want to avoid, Fisk said. You wanted to help her because of Spacek. Spacek re-entered the novel the night before her screen test. She lived in it, not just studied it. She read about the suffering, bullying, strict mother, and abilities of Carrie. She absorbed feeling rather than memorized lines. The following morning, when she entered the room, she made use of that sensation. De Palma's opinion was altered by that screen test. Spacek didn't stop shooting once it got underway. Living as Carrie was her choice. She promised to keep her distance from the cast on the first day. She claimed to need to feel alone even though she loved them. So she avoided all of them. X's decision, according to PJ Sauls, who portrayed one of the bullies, made it simpler for the others to treat her cruelly on camera. Not that they were being mean. She was receiving assistance from them. Carrie wasn't the only role Spacek played. She became herself. She even made her trailer into a place of worship. She stuffed it with religious pictures and a big Bible with illustrations. She looked at the artwork, which included images of individuals being judged, punished, and saved. Those drawings taught me how to hold my body, she added. Spacek would physically mimic the poses of stone sinners in scenarios where Carrie felt hurt or embarrassed. It involved complete involvement rather than merely acting. Additionally, she maintained her immersion even after the cameras stopped. The dress she wore in the well-known prom scene was soaked in artificial blood. Days were spent on the shoot. The blood shouldn't appear different on each take, according to Spacek. With that in mind, she requested a trailer behind the studio from MGM. And for 3 nights, she slept in the dress. For everything to match on film, she lived and stayed in the blood. Everyone was astonished by that level of dedication, but she didn't mind. "It's gotta match," she stated. "I'd like it to look fantastic." People took note on set. The gym teacher, played by Betty Buckley, claimed that Spacek was always courteous. She kept her distance, welcomed everyone, and held her herbal tea without making a disturbance. She maintained her commitment to the position despite her respect for the people and the task. It was merely meant to be another prom scenario. However, the events that transpired on the Carrie set in 1976 rank among the most memorable events in the history of horror films. Filming that one blood-soaked scene, in which a wet Spacek stands motionless in horror, took more than 2 weeks. The group completed 35 takes to get everything just right. According to Spacek or Brian De Palma, the actual blood pour only required 1 or possibly 2 attempts, but the entire sequence was a technical and emotional marathon. They didn't utilize CGI and instead employed split-screen techniques and vintage effects. The entire set is actually set on fire by the crew when mayhem breaks out in the gym. It wasn't all under control, either. William Catt, who played Tommy Ross, recalled how the assistant director became frightened and shouted for everyone to flee. However, De Palma simply yelled, "Keep rolling." Sissy Spacek lived the trauma, not just a role. She spent 3 days wearing the same blood-soaked garment. She sat in it, slept in it, and allowed her skin to become hardened by the sticky muck. She wanted to experience the trap because she wanted to feel what Carrie would. Feeling of embarrassment and suffocation. Naturally, the blood wasn't genuine. Corn syrup, food coloring, and water were combined and heated to body temperature, around 98 degrees Fahrenheit, to ensure the ideal flow. However, it dried quickly in the bright studio lights. As it hardened, it began to tug at her skin like adhesive. In 30 minutes, it turned crusty. She would cling to her body. Using spray bottles, the crew followed her, attempting to keep the blood moist so she could move. By day 3, it began to smell of heat, sweat, and sugar, a sickening combination, but she never acted out of character. The scenes of the gym fire were considerably worse. The heat started to caramelize the blood on her skin. Her elbows had to be chipped off by makeup artists in order for her to walk. She even stiffened her hair. Because of its inability to move on its own, team workers had to comb it strand by strand. In one instance, the syrup had made her hair so firm that it resembled plastic rather than real hair. What's the most bizarre, though? She claimed that the first time the blood touched her, it was like a cozy blanket. That feeling was short-lived. Her skin began to break and ache in a matter of minutes. Every time they touched, her arms adhered to her torso. Between takes, nobody was able to get the blood off. There was no way to replicate the spatter in the same manner. There was no mechanism that produced the blood. It was poured by her husband from above. About 3 gallons of the viscous crimson slurry were poured upon her head by Jack Fisk, the art director for the movie, and her then new husband, who climbed a ladder. It was bizarre and personal. Initially, he had assisted her in getting the part. Not even casting was intended for her. She was only permitted to audition because she was kind to Fisk. However, he was shocked when Spacek appeared, naked, and dressed as Carrie. Her role was perfect. The scene that characterized both of their careers was the bloody collision between the wife and husband in one memorable take. However, the misery didn't stop there. Spacek declined a stunt double in the last scene in the graveyard where Carrie's hand explodes out of the ground. Her desire was to do it herself. It startled De Palma. Despite his objections, she persisted. And so Fisk intervened once more. After building a box, he put her inside. She was buried behind pumice rocks. She lay in the box in complete darkness, waiting for hours. When it was time, she thrust her hand through the stones and upward. Her fingers were repeatedly torn up by the sharp rocks. Despite their bleeding, she continued without complaining. Spacek had been quiet during the filming. She stayed away from the other cast members, examined paintings of people being stoned, and read grim Bible passages. She wished to remain in character, alone, uncomfortable, and alone. It succeeded. The anxiety permeated each frame. It started to affect other actors as well. The moment in the shower where Carrie is harassed was recalled by Nancy Allen, who portrayed the cruel girl Chris. It seemed to her like a ritual. We needed to push ourselves into a rage. I recall trembling, she said. I mean, it was very unsettling. The actresses did more than simply act cruel. They sensed it. That scene's harshness no longer felt manufactured. It seemed genuine. And part of the suffering was real. The girl wearing the red baseball cap, PJ Souls, was struck directly by a fire hose during the prom massacre. It was full pressure, like De Palma desired. The fire marshal cautioned that it was hazardous. Souls took a direct blow to the ear. Her eardrum exploded. She had a 6-month hearing loss in that ear. In fact, in the last cut, you can see her flinch. Slide down the bleachers after that. They took her to the medical facility. De Palma retained the video as well. Other people were also injured. Bruises, actual injuries, and cracked ribs. But it all made it to the screen. What began as a minor horror movie evolved into a horrific, exquisite, and unforgettable masterpiece. The critics took note. A classic chameleon act, Pauline Kael described Spacek's performance. She transformed into a monster avenger from a helpless young child to a radiant beauty. In Before of Your Eyes, her face grew older. Spacek was nominated for her first Oscar for just one role. As well as making her famous, it demonstrated to the world that real horror does not require computer-generated imagery. All you need is a lot of fake blood, sweat, and dedication. Many people had their doubts about Sissy Spacek when she decided to play country music icon Loretta Lynn in Coal Miner's Daughter. At the age of 30, she played characters ranging in age from 13 to middle age. She didn't resemble Loretta in the least. Spacek's eyes were hazel, her hair was light reddish blonde, and her freckles were pale. Gray eyes, thick brown hair, and porcelain skin characterized Loretta. That didn't matter, though. Loretta Lynn chose Sissy on her own. She had stopped at Spacek while looking through pictures. She's that. She stated that was the daughter of the coal miner. What transpired was one of the most striking changes in the history of cinema. It was not just the clothes that Sissy wore. She walked like a bashful teen. She hunched her back, bowed her head, and displayed the anguish of a girl who had raised her siblings. As the movie progressed, Sissy started to get more confident. Her eyes became piercing. Her voice became louder. It wasn't merely cosmetics. Her name was Loretta. Film reviewer Roger Ebert was taken aback. According to him, Spacek could portray any age on TV and always make you believe it. That was only the beginning, though. The majority of folks assumed she would lip-sync when she sang. Ultimately, Loretta Lynn's voice is unique. On the set, however, director Michael Apted instructed her to perform every note in every song live. Everything changed after that choice. Spacek picked up Loretta's singing style. Her voice was on the soundtrack, which made it to the Billboard Top 40. It turned gold. The country chart peaked at number 2 with her rendition of Coal Miner's Daughter. She even received a nomination for a Grammy. The contrast between Spacek's singing and the genuine Loretta was indistinguishable to critics. And the sound wasn't the only thing. Behind each line, she encapsulated the grit, the ecstasy, and the anguish. It was unvarnished and honest. She won an Oscar because of her candor. March 31, 1981. After saying her name, Dustin Hoffman opened the envelope. Sissy Spacek, the Best Actress, thanked everyone as she approached in a startled state. But because Loretta Lynn was seated in the crowd, witnessing her life being portrayed on TV, the moment became legendary. More unbelievable. In addition to the real Jake LaMotta, Robert De Niro won Best Actor for Raging Bull the same evening. Spacek was one of just 14 actresses in history to win the Golden Globe and the Oscar for the same performance. The movie was nominated for 7 awards, including Best Picture. Sissy didn't slow down. Nearly 40 years later, the Library of Congress decided to preserve it, demonstrating that her performance had been ingrained in American history. In the 1982 film Missing, she portrayed Beth Horman, a lady attempting to locate her spouse amidst the turmoil in Chile. That earned her a 3rd Oscar nomination. She returned with The River 2 years later, this time portraying a farm wife attempting to save her house in times of need. Her 4th nomination was that one. She got her 5th in 1986 when she made the transition to dark humor in Crimes of the Heart. Despite playing a woman who shot her violent husband, she managed to make audiences laugh and cry. Then there was a lengthy lull, with no further Oscar nominations for 15 years. In 2001, that all changed. She came back in the bedroom, in which she played Ruth Fowler, a mother whose son is killed. The production cost was only $1.7 million. It brought in $44.8 million. Devastating was how critics described her performance. She was acclaimed by major critics and received the AFI Award, the Independent Spirit Award, and the Golden Globe. At 51, she was stronger than ever. Despite the fact that Halle Berry won the Oscar, many people still think that The Bedroom should have taken home Best Picture. But nothing compared to what she performed in Night, even if that role was extremely taxing. Mom. In a drama from 1986, she played Jessie, a lady who methodically plans to commit suicide despite her mother's pleas for her to stop. The movie is set in real time. There are clocks in each room for 96 minutes. No respite, no interruptions. It was shot day after day, in chronological order. Nothing changed about the house. Emotions grew. Spacek had to be silent, calm, and aloof. There was a cost. The movie made her feel gloomy, she subsequently acknowledged. Critics praised the raw strength she brought to the part, despite the film barely earning $442,000 at the box office. Even further back in time is the bizarre, dreamlike 1977 picture Three Women. Robert Altman directed it. It was a 50-page dream without a script. Pinky, a shy girl who develops an obsession with her co-worker, was portrayed by Spacek. As the movie progresses, her character changes. She becomes frigid after being sweet at first. It is unsettling. The critics were astonished. She received the New York Film Critics Circle's Best Supporting Actress Award. The Cannes Best Actress Award went to co-star Shelley Duvall. The public, however, found the film too strange. It wasn't officially released on home video for years and eventually devolved into a cult. Sissy, however, never stopped. She began streaming when she was in her 70s. On Netflix, she portrayed a distraught mother in Bloodline. On Hulu, she went back to horror with Castle Rock. In Night Sky, she played a character who discovers a secret room that leads to another planet at the age of 72. Despite the show's cancellation after just one season, she received a Saturn Award nomination. She will now, aged 75, star with Michelle Williams in FX's Dying for Sex. On the set of Badlands, Sissy Spacek first met Jack Fisk in 1972. She was the main actress. He served as the director of art. Jack took her on a boat cruise by his treehouse one day. A sudden deluge occurred. The boat they were in went down. They escaped with only minor injuries. That was the turning point. I knew then that life with Jack would be exciting, Sissy later remarked. 2 years later, on April 12, 1974, they were married. This was not your average Hollywood wedding. Wore jeans that were blue. Their dog was the sole observer. Because they were so apprehensive about marriage, they opened a joint bank account with precisely $30, which at the time was the cost of a divorce. I guess it would take something spectacular, like death, to put an end to it, Sissy joked later. They were not merely living together. Their work was shared. In Violets Are Blue, 1986, and Raggedy Man, 1981, Jack served as her director. They continued to collaborate on films in the 1970s and beyond. That was their common bond. They have been married for 51 years as of 2025, making it one of the longest marriages in Hollywood. In 1981, at the height of her stardom, and following her Oscar win for Coal Miner's Daughter, Sissy and Jack made a crazy choice. They purchased a 210-acre Virginia horse property. They left Los Angeles permanently by 1982. In the Blue Ridge Mountains, distant from flashing cameras, was their new house. They took refuge there. The farm became Sissy's haven. Quiet, without interviews or cameras. Grazing horses roamed the fields. A pool was encircled by trees. Patios are forgotten.